Hello, everybody. If you can't tell, I'm a little underneath the weather, and I apologize that this episode didn't come out on Thursday. I do not know why the project file did not save, nor do I know why the program that I used decided that that project just didn't exist. So I had to re-edit this and put it out today on this lovely Monday afternoon. I appreciate you all for your patience, and I'm horribly sorry. Today I'm talking with my guest, Barko, and he is from as you will find out, he is a FC leader from Final Fantasy XIV. We go into a lot of talk about running a guild, or what we'd like from a guild, and even the housing crisis of Final Fantasy 15. 14, my apologies. Anyways, enough out of me. I'm going to go ahead and just bring him on in. Okay, so I have a problem when role playing on MMOs sometimes. And I have a problem role playing small talk. Does that make sense?
Oh, like casual or
Not casual, not casual role play. I love me some casual role
gotcha.
play. But like when somebody like you and your like whoever else is with you is probably like in that casual setting, but like the responses are so short and there's not a lot to go off of like for either party member involved, and so it's hard to create that narrative momentum off of like the very very small talk. Do you know what I mean?
I know what you mean. I up until recently, I always kind of RP'd all of my characters like in a very comical sense. Like
Uh-huh.
all of them had like something that they did that was comical.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so like I kind of thrived off the small talk because that was the way I could get my jokes out there.
Oh, I
Uh,
do this. I try to do the same thing. Like after I'll send an emote, I'll start working on my next paragraph, and I will use that time to think of something clever or funny that the character might do, and so I can implement it into the next paragraph.
uh, yeah, but I do. But just in real life, I love small talk. So,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, actually, me and Zaraki in the FC, we were talking about, we were kind of, we've talked about before, just like, different, because me and him kind of have different RP that we like. Like, he loves more casual, chill, hang out, get to know each other RP. I want to do like more grand adventure RP.
Mm-hmm. It's hard to boil that and mix it together. I think I've done a pretty good job of that so far with my guild over on Elder Scrolls. But it's really hard because you have to make dedicated times for the casual, and you have to make
Hmm.
dedicated times for the grand adventure, as it were. And in order to kind of keep things flowing, you have to figure out a way that the grand adventure aspect isn't going to interrupt the casual. Do you know what I mean? But you
Oh
can
yeah,
have casual in the grand adventure, but you can't have grand adventure in the casual. It's a
yeah.
really weird scenario to be in because like when you have a guild, most guilds have, their event setups, and um their events are I'm gonna say like one and done. Like they'll have one grand adventure for the night, and I want to have grand adventures that last more than just one session. I want them to continue on so we can build up a like you said, a grand story.
Yeah. Oh, that's yeah. I understand that. I appreciate that. And that may be like good inspiration for me to start to pursue casual a little bit more.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, casual can be fun. I try to what I try to do is I try to like, well, in my guild, when people are off on their adventures, they're just off on their adventures, and if they come back for the casual, they come back for the casual when we do our casual nights. Um, so that sort of solves itself. Um, but you can always do. Oh, sorry for everybody listening. We're talking about FC stuff. Sorry, free company stuff, which is what a guild is. when it comes to Final Fantasy 14? Well, if you don't mind me asking, how'd you get into role playing?
Well, that is a good question, and I will give you a good answer. Actually, it's going to be a funny answer. I accidentally got into role playing.
Really?
Yes. So I joined. I started playing Final Fantasy 14. It was my first ever MMO. I'd never played Dungeons and Dragons. I'd never played anything that where there was any kind of role play aspect. And I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to. I watched Sword Art Online, and
Mm-hmm.
it made me want to get into an MMO. So I picked Final Fantasy 14 because I have played every Final Fantasy almost. I loved them all. So I was like, I'll do this. This is like the perfect MMO for me. So I get
Mm-hmm.
on there and I play. I played on and off for 8 years. And my first true FC that I joined and made friends was a roleplay FC. And they're like, "Hey, Barko, would you like to come roleplay with us?" I'm like, "Ah, I don't really know what you're talking about." And they're like, "Oh, well," and they kind of explained to me what roleplay was. I'm like, that kind of sounds kind of crazy. Like, I don't know. So I kind of came and I hung out, and I didn't really understand the whole aspect of developing your character, the story, all this. And so I tried with
Mm-hmm.
them. I ended up, that FC fell apart and I left and I joined the FC that I was in for the majority of my Final Fantasy 14 career. And that was a
Mm-hmm.
roleplay FC. And when I joined, everybody was so friendly, was so nice, so loving, but they was a roleplay FC. And
It
as
w-
someone who never
yeah.
roleplayed or anything, I'm like, well, they had roleplay nights every Sunday night. And I was like, okay. So I decided to go and show up. And I was like, hey, I'm just gonna give it a whirl. And as I started and then after that first night, I really got hooked on it. I was like, this is so much fun. And I just kind of showed up and was kind of like, ha ha ha, Barco Holy Sword, making some jokes and stuff, kind of hanging out. Everybody else has like this very deep, developed story for their characters, and they're asking me questions about my character, and I'm like, I have nothing. And so that is like was the very beginning of my roleplay career. And then after that, I got into Dungeons and Dragons that pursued me to pursue other forms of roleplay.
Uh-huh.
And then I ended up taking over that roleplay FC for quite a while.
Remember, this is the guild that I met you in, right?
Yep.
Yep, same guild. Okay. Um, how did so have you tried any other sort of role playing? Have you tried tabletops at all? Have you tried LARPing, acting like theater work, anything else besides this?
I did I played quite a bit of tabletop,
Mm-hmm.
and
So you weren't you
that's
weren't you weren't completely new to role play. You just to make sure I understand that correctly. You role played before you did tabletops before you did MMO.
no MMO first, then tabletops.
Oh, okay. Well, heck, that's I'm not gonna say completely unusual, but that is definitely out of the norm. Because normally people
Yeah,
say they get into tabletops before they get into the MMO aspect.
yeah. So that was so like I enjoyed role playing so much, and I have a friend who has a world that he has been running one shots and campaigns out of in Dungeons and Dragons for 20 plus years, and he's like, "Hey, why don't you like come hang out with me sometime? Like you can be in one of our one shots." I was like, "Oh man, I
Mm-hmm.
don't know. I don't like." And this friend, he loves to run first edition Dungeons and Dragons. That is his bread and butter. But he was there when it first came out. So, and that's what he wants to run, even though 5e is a thing, and that's what he wants to run. First edition Dungeons and Dragons. And actually, that was uh, the first tabletop I ever played was in first edition's Dungeons and Dragons.
Mm-hmm. That's wild because man, first is a big stretch from 3.5, 4e, 5e, like a real big stretch.
Yeah, it is. It is. I've been running some 5e lately with some friends, and I'm like, wow, this
Mm-hmm.
is a lot different. Now, I played with so with that friend, we joined, and I'm like, I don't really. I was a little nervous at the mechanics and all this stuff, and like first edition is very brutal.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty hardcore, and so I just played a cleric, but I played like a corrupt cleric, and I really started getting into this character. And so my friend goes around, he starts telling everybody, he's like, hey, this guy is really good at role play. I'm like, oh, was I? He's like, yeah, you did like amazing. And
Mm-hmm.
so now me and him are like really good friends. His group of role play friends, I'm good friends with them, and I jump in and out of games with them. So
That's
I'm
nice.
a late bloomer to the role play.
I mean, it's perfectly fine. I love roleplay so much. I think it is a wonderful hobby to have, and the fact that you can build a community of friends around it, or I should say through it, is just so delightful to me. I could gush on about this forever if you let me.
Yeah, well, go ahead.
Well, I mean, hey, I don't want to. No, I can't. I can't do that. I can't sit here and talk about myself. But how are you enjoying Final Fantasy roleplay so far?
Oh, I love it. It took me quite a while to kind of get the lore down and to like kind of understand like where your character stands. Because like at first I kind
Mm-hmm.
of thought it was bizarre that like my character's not the main character.
Yeah,
But
that seems to be the hardest thing for people to get a grasp of when it comes to MMO role playing because it's like some people think about it and they think they're the warrior of light or they're the um what's it called in Elder Scrolls? God, my friends are gonna yell at me for this. It's the ardent. No, not the ardent. Like you're not the main character in either Elder Scrolls Online or something like that. Like the quests tell you are. You're someone else completely different.
yeah, so I kind of started with like a little bit of a setback to my roleplay because Barko Holy Sword is a Rothgar, and Rothgar are the big
Mm-hmm.
cat dads they call them. They're big lion looking characters. So
Mm-hmm.
when I started role playing as that, um, there was no lore really for the Rothgar.
Mm-hmm.
Like there was like very minimum lore. So I just started making up my own lore.
Yeah.
And like I had like a big thing and nobody questioned it. That's not really like probably hardcore true role players are screaming right now to hear that. But there was hardly nothing and nobody questioned it because I did a good job with it. And
mm-hmm.
then as the expansion went on, Shadowbringers, which was the last expansion because we're on Endwalker now,
Mm-hmm.
they dropped a lot of Rothgar lore.
Did they?
And yeah, so when they dropped that, I had to like really start like kind of developing Barco's story even better and changing some things up. But it's been a but I was really glad that I started out like that with the minimum lore
Mm-hmm.
because it really gave me a chance to like really dive in and like feel my character. And then when they
Mm-hmm.
gave more lore, I could develop it better and shape Barco to who I want him to be.
Did you have to retcon anything?
Yeah, quite a bit.
Oh,
Um,
I bet.
so like I originally like his story, if it's okay if I talk about this.
Yeah, go ahead.
Um, his story originally, I said that he lived on the mountains with his clan,
Mm-hmm.
and like so he was a samurai, and I'd done a lot of lore about his ancestors and stuff, passing down the holy sword because he's Barco Holy Sword, and like so the original lore was is like the like whenever someone became of age in the family, the firstborn in the family came of age, they became the next holy sword, and they bore the sword over until their child came of age, and they passed
Mm-hmm.
it down. And then when that holy sword died, their soul went into the holy sword. and that was the blade that they packed also. They packed a blade that was passed down, and it had to be forged with their soul into the blade. And like, yeah, I really went into it. And obviously, like when they dropped the Hrothgar lore, I had to really kind of take that back. But it was also funny because um, I don't know how much I can say without dropping too much spoilers, but they did they kind of played on that a little bit, the relic weapons
Mm-hmm.
for that expansion. So that was kind of funny that I was kind of talking about that. But obviously, the Hrothgar, like my Hrothgar is a Hellion, and they come from like the Holy City, which was Baja, and Baja was destroyed in the Bajan incident.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just had to take him. I had to retcon that he was, raised on a mountain and
Mm-hmm.
all that stuff. I almost retcon his whole story, but I developed it, and everybody was patient with me as I developed him. And honestly, I wanted to stick out. So when I first started doing Barko's talking, I always talked it like when he talked in Old English, like the mother knowest thou weareth her dress, and that's how I spoke the
Yeah.
whole time,
Uh-huh.
constantly.
And then you found out that not everyone does that.
Yeah, yeah, and that was very hard to role play.
Speaking of Final Fantasy, I've been playing Vraska. I've been playing him. He is a
Yeah,
Vieira. I don't know how to actually say that word. Vieira.
yeah, Vieira.
Vieira. So he's a Vieira. And the only because I haven't gotten to any of the new stuff yet, so I only know what I know about the Varen people is everything that I learned from a whole different game. So I've been trying to copy Fran from Final Fantasy. What was it? 12. Final
Yeah, yeah.
Fantasy. Yeah, 12. Um, I've been trying to copy Fran's speech the whole time. And sometimes I sit there and I'm trying to type it out. And normally I'm a really quick typer. But when it comes to having to try to put on this voice, I'm like, okay, I type it up. Wait, no, that's not it. Back it up. Do it like this. Wait, no, hold on. And then, wait, now it's just confusing. And then I sit there and I wasted everyone. I spent like 5 minutes trying to get my character to say like three things, and it's a nightmare. I don't know anything about. I wish I knew more about Final Fantasy's lore. And hey, if you're out there and you know about Final Fantasy lore and you want to come on and talk about it, please feel free to reach out to me. I'll be happy to listen. But I don't know anything about the Final Fantasy lore, and I wish I knew more. Because it seems like there's a lot. And also something to talk about. They are releasing a tabletop.
Oh yes, I'm very excited about that.
Mm-hmm. I think what I want to do is after my other guild is running its best, pretty much self-reliant, and I don't have to be there for much, just to kind of help with the day-to-day activities, make sure everyone's okay. Um I think what I want to try to do is I want to try to make my own FC where I use the tabletop for the clans, for the free companies, mechanics, as it were.
Yeah, yeah.
So, like
Well,
when you
that I
join
would like
up,
that. Yeah.
yeah, when you join up, you're like, hey, like you make a character sheet and everything like that for character. I would like to give that a shot. I think that would be pretty interesting because not many people, like every different guild and free company has a different mechanic that it's based around or something like that. And so I'll be really interested to see how to work as a tabletop, because I've always wanted to run my guilds more like a tabletop.
Yeah, yeah. That was like something I've been kind of wanting to push, like a quest campaign. I've been calling it. That's like
Mm-hmm.
I know we have talked about it a little bit, or I've mentioned it. Like I kind of want to run like a on Final Fantasy with the characters, but run like almost like a tabletop style campaign with everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And that
Yeah.
way, now, that way you have like a it also, I think it would help put boundaries on people to a degree. And I know that may not sound right, but now, um, I don't know if you've ever had this happen with role play on other MMOs and stuff, but one of the biggest problems I've encountered on Final Fantasy with running role play content and trying to do like we would call them quest logs or like an adventure RP or a one shot or a campaign is
Mm-hmm.
that like you always get that one person whose character was blessed by the gods. They're the
Oh
warrior
yes.
of light. They
Mm.
have killed every primal. They're this and they're that, and they're going to do this and they're going to do that. And then you almost kind of get in an arguing match, like, well, you can't do that.
Yeah, there's definitely a bit of a social contract to role playing that a lot of people, and this is something else I want to do a video on at some point. But there's a social contract when it comes to role playing that people aren't aware of when they get in because they think, "Hey, I'm just role playing." And when you sit down to role play, there's or to make a character for role playing, there's not really a guide to do it. I mean, you can do a little bit of research to get into it, but really, like every game is different. Um, World of Warcraft MMO is pretty. Um, the role players there are pretty good about not being overpowered, but that really sort of depends on which server you're on. Over in Elder Scrolls Online, the magic system is so wild that you could pretty much come up with anything, and Final Fantasy feels more like a power fantasy than it does the other games. So you have people flash stepping or whatever it is around and doing like all these crazy things, and it's just like what it comes down to is people's expectations for fun, and some people have fun in a different way than other people do, and it's hard because you have to figure out where you and your character are going to sit in order to have that sort of fun. Some guilds are good about like or some guilds are pretty like pretty hardcore when it comes to their rules. Are RP heavy guilds where it's like they're really like they absolutely 100% stick to lore, anything lore accurate. And then you have your lore light guilds, which are just like, nah, we're just gonna do whatever.
Yes, I've seen plenty of both in Final Fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've seen like such extremes on both ends that you're like,
No, I get it, and it. Oh, but let me tell you what. I used to roleplay in DC Universe Online, and
oh, okay.
that was fucking wild. Like every trope, every single trope you could think of in like a superhero story would like pop up in like a matter of moments when role playing. You have the person who is the dark edgy Batman, you have the person who is the you have the person who is the traveler in time. You have just so many different things, and it was so hard to establish roleplay in DC Universe Online because the roleplay guilds never stick around. They pop up. There's some roleplay for a little while, and then they disappear again, and makes me very sad.
Oh yeah, of course. It is hard to, and I know you know this from, and I'm sure every MMO out there, no matter if you have a guild, a clan, a free company, whatever, if you're roleplay centered, it is very hard to keep the roleplay going.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very easy to get too light that everyone's like, okay, I don't want to do this anymore because most games let you only join one guild with one character. So Elder Scrolls Online being the biggest outlier in my head right now, where you can join 5 guilds with one character. Or sorry, 5 guilds
Really?
for your whole account. Yeah, yeah. So if you join a guild on one character and then you make another character, you'll still be a part of that guild. Um, which I think is pretty neat. So I have like 5 different guilds over there. There's my guild, and then a few other guilds. I'm like a part of 2 other roleplay guilds, and then I'm a part
Mm-hmm.
of a traders guild and another one that's just like all about just vibing and chatting and doing nothing. We talk about houses. We talk about the housing in Elder Scrolls. But because oh god, I've already lost my mind. I've lost it. What was I saying?
About
Oh
the because
yes,
you yeah, multiple guilds.
yeah. But because most guilds only allow you to have one guild at a time, you're kind of it's hard to find that guild for your character. Or I should say, what that's not the right word. It's hard to find a guild that can fit your schedule perfectly. And like if there's too much role play, you might get overwhelmed with like how much is going on. And then you have to worry about how strict the guild is on top of that. And then if there's too little RP, you have to worry about the lack you have to worry about losing a lack of interest.
Yes.
But then you make friends, and if your friends really, really like you, they stick around, which my friends have definitely done so far, and I appreciate them so much.
Yes.
I
So I recently had like struck out to start my own
mhm,
FC on Final Fantasy, and actually
mhm,
I was just gonna kind of go rogue and not have a free company for a while, just when I stepped down as the leader of my last free company, and I was
mhm,
actually pursued by a group of friends, and they were like, "Hey, we just want to start a free company with you and have you in charge." I'm like,
mhm,
"Oh wow." I'm like, "Okay." Um, so they stuck around and everything, and I appreciate it. Obviously, you came over and joined on
mhm.
Braska,
I sure
and
did. Yeah, I sure
yeah,
did.
I've appreciated everybody's done that, and but I'm kind of getting off topic from what we was talking about.
That's okay.
I know in Final Fantasy, like, you can only be on one free company with each character. And if I make a new
Mhm,
one, it's just automatically not on a free company. I can join whatever free company. But
mhm. Well, I think that people do need to start sticking because we have so many different ways of getting in contact with each other outside of the game. I think that people should, quite honestly, start normalizing the idea of making a Discord or like a forum or something like that, where they communicate and not have to worry about using like making an FC or a guild for that. Like just have one person be like, "Hey, this is the guild home for this this person has the guild home for this company or this guild. Just go to their house." That's a thing. The only reason why I think that a free company or a guild is even needed in game is just to make sure that you have communication in game. But if you're adamant about using Discord, then you have plenty of communication right there. So if you hadn't have made a free company, you could have still like I honestly believe that you could have still made it work. I've been making like a separate community outside of their free company and just been like we're all a part of the same group, but we're like not in the same guild in the game.
yeah,
That's just my opinion,
yeah,
though.
yeah, oh yeah, I think it definitely would have worked.
How is it? How's it been? Making your own free company? Because the last one you inherited, uh,
Yes.
and this one you're just starting off all on your own. So how's that been for you?
It's been exciting which you've been in the Discord, we're running a lot of ideas, stuff we want to do, direction we want to go. And um, it was nice when I inherited my last free company because there was already established lore.
Mm-hmm.
That was good and that was bad also. The lore was
Yeah.
great. The lore that had been established, it was genius. It was very good, but it kind of felt like it kind of blocked me into a corner when I took over. So now it's been very exciting. I got some really good stories to that I'm wanting to tell on Barko and on some of my other characters.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, we're, right now we're establishing the rules, where the direction is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
And on Final Fantasy 14, I know you had told me that like on ESO, housing is a lot better than it is on Final Fantasy 14.
Yes, absolutely. Because you don't have to bid on housing. You can just say, I want this house, and the game will give you an instance of that house.
That is awesome.
Yeah, mind you, it's predetermined housings that everyone is choosing from. Like, so it's not like going up to any random house and saying, "This is my house now." No, it's like you can buy a cave. Everyone has access to that cave, but only you have access to your instance of that cave, and you can invite people to that instance. So therefore, you have a guild home.
Oh,
It
okay.
it is
That's
it is so much. I think everybody needs to fucking do what Elder Scrolls did for the housing. I think that I really, really like the Final Fantasy housing, right? I think that you can do some really cool, creative things in Final Fantasy. But Elder Scrolls, that's where it's at, man. Like it's just they give you like a limit. You can put anything that you want in there. Most the grand homes have like a 700 cap on like furniture and stuff like that, or how many items you can have. Um you can pop up any of the, like in Elder Scrolls you have like crafting stations. You can get any of the crafting stations and just put it in your house. So like you always have a place to go if you need to like take care of something, like you have too much items and you need to start deconstructing them. You have always have them at your house. It's so nice. It is just so nice. But with Final Fantasy looks so much better than Elder Scrolls, and that's what makes me sad. Final
oh
Fantasy
yes.
definitely has Elder Scrolls beat on like looks, man. They really does. It just Final Fantasy just looks so good all the time.
Yeah, it does. Their housing is amazing. It's very
Mm-hmm.
hard. Like, it's also it's now it's genius how they're doing it. It's a pure money game for them. I know I
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't say it's a pure money game because I do know Yoshi P, who's in charge of Final Fantasy 14. He loves this game and he cares for it.
Mm-hmm.
But like if I don't log on for 45 days, and I don't, or if I don't go in my house for 45 days, I lose it. So
Really?
like,
I did not know that.
yeah, like I'll get evicted, and then it is
Oh,
so hard to get a house.
wasn't there a correct me if I'm wrong, wasn't there a problem that one player was like buying all the houses and like buying just a ton of houses, like and just kept buying house after house after house, and they didn't use them. So I got to the point where this person had just like a dozen or so houses and nobody could buy them because he just would log in. And every single time that he got a new house, he would like every single time he got enough money, he would just wait for a new house to go down or to go up for sale, and he would just buy that, therefore eliminating the chance for anybody else to get it.
Yeah, that is. I do believe that is very true. I won't name drop, but I know when housing first got dropped, like the rules for housing, I wasn't around, or I wasn't. I didn't care about housing, I guess, when it happened. And
Mm-hmm.
there was like, I think it's in the Goblet, maybe. There was like a free company that went and like bought out like a whole ward.
Wow, that is insane! A whole ward. So for the
Yes.
people who are listening, the housing in Final Fantasy works like this. There is an area where there are several houses on, right? And there is houses 1 through, what was it, 60? Like 1 through 30
Yep.
on one part, and then 31 through 60 on the other part.
Yep. The
And
subdivisions. Yep.
yeah. So there's 60 houses on that single plot of land, right? And there are different plots of lands, but that plot of land houses 1 through 60. That is one ward, right? So, and you can have different instances of wards. So you could say like my friend Barko here might have a house on Ward 1, like his house might be number 2 on Ward 1.
It's funny
And
you
I
say
might have
that because my house is I have it in Shirogane, which is the more Japanese themed housing ward, and I have Ward 1, Plot 1.
Hell yeah. Oh man, I wasn't trying to get so close. But so my friend here, he could have Ward 1 Plot 1, that house, and I could have Ward 2 Plot 1. So I could have the same house but on a different plot. I could have the same house but on a different ward. And that's how housing works in Final Fantasy. The biggest problem is that there's only so many houses to go around, and there's a lot more players than there are houses.
Yes, there is.
So the fact that go ahead, I'm sorry.
Oh, the housing is it's feaster. It's there's definitely a hunger for the housing right now, and there is not enough houses for everybody. And
Yeah.
and you'll have people like, they'll have an alt and they'll get on there and they'll buy a personal plot, and then you'll get people get on, and then they'll get on there and they'll buy one also for, like, they'll have a character, they'll have like another alt, and they'll make a free company, and then they'll buy a house for their free company, so they'll have like two houses there.
Yeah.
And yeah, the problem is there's just not enough, there's not enough housing, and when a
Man,
plot
listen,
becomes available, go ahead.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you
No,
go
I
ahead.
was
Go
just
ahead.
I was just gonna say I I get on game I get in these games to get away from problems like the housing market, not to
Ain't
feel
that
it
the
more.
truth? Now, they changed the housing to make it a little bit
Uh-huh.
easier. Now, before you joined, here's how it used to be. A plot is
Mm-hmm.
available. So, like, let's just
Sure.
say my plot's available, and you would see like so many people outside the plot that, like, you really just couldn't, like you couldn't even see all their names. And they would be
Right.
continuously clicking that plot trying to buy it because there was an invisible unknown timer on that plot that
Oh,
was
I hate
not
that.
set. It was not set to be like, hey, when Barco leaves any plot he has, it's 6 hours. No, it could be, it could have, it could have been 6 hours. It could have been 24 hours. So you would have people there spam clicking all day long trying to buy this house. And then
Oh
just
man.
whoever happened to click at the right time got it. But here was the other
Oh
thing.
god. Uh-huh.
So you would have people out there, and I've actually done this to people, not spitefully, like, but just to get a better plot. But, like, so if you did not have a plot, that's what you did. You sit there and you spam clicked all day long trying to buy a plot.
Mm-hmm.
But but if you already had a plot and you wanted to move, you're like, oh, hey, this plot right here where all these like 100 people are clicking is a lot nicer than the plot I have. I want to buy it. You could instantly transfer your ownership from your old plot to this plot. You just boom,
Wow.
and those people would be there for hours. And then you would be like, hey, I could be like, hey, sorry, I just bought this plot, but Shirogane Ward Plot 1 is available. Well, guess what? There's a new invisible timer that you don't know what time it is. And they would all go there and click.
Wow, that's a nightmare. Oh
It
man.
it really was. So, so like the game, like, so the goal is like, if a medium, so you have small, medium, and large plots.
Mm-hmm.
Right now I have a medium. So the goal was to get a small, because if you got a small, as soon as, like, say if me and you are standing outside a large and I own a small, I could instantly buy it. But if you didn't, well, like, a large gets claimed, like it gets claimed in because somebody would take it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so that was the thing. Like, if you was a free company trying to get a plot and you had the money to buy a large, you would never start out in a large because that's just how it worked, because everybody automatically transferred over to it. So I think it was last year, they changed it and they made a lottery system, which is a lot more fair. So it's like there's a plot available. Me and you can go there. You can bid on it. I can bid on it. But also,
Mm-hmm.
100 people can bid on it. And then after the lottery period's over, it randomly selects a number and that person won it. Now, a lot of people don't like that as much because if you're wanting to transfer to a better plot, yeah, that's no fun. But
Mm-hmm.
if you've never got a plot, it's a lot better than sitting there all day long and just randomly clicking on this plot trying to buy it.
Yeah. That sounds wild still. Like even then, like and I know that with like homes you can buy apartments, as it were. Is that right? Like you can
Yep,
buy your
you
own
can.
room in,
Yep.
in like another house. Like so like when you get a house, I can go up to your house, I can go into your house and buy a room in your house.
Uh, no, you can do
If
that
you
on a free company. You can
free
buy your
company
own
house.
room on a free company room.
Ah, okay, that's how that works. But so yeah, that makes a lot more sense because that way everybody in that free company has access to housing, and then they kind of work with the room that they have. But still, it's wild because like if you want a big home, you have to get lucky. And
Yeah,
World of
it's
Warcraft
100%
still
it,
doesn't have housing.
which is crazy to me.
I know they came out with a fucking garrison before, like a garrison that acts as a home before they came out as for before they came out with anything else, and the garrison isn't actually that much of a home from what I understand.
Yeah, I've heard that also. I'd never played World of Warcraft, but I've heard a lot of horror stories on how the garrisons. I guess one side looks really good, but then like the other sides didn't. The other with the horde, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, quite literally, and like quite literally, like I'm looking through it just to make sure that I'm not like pulling people's houses. Um, they just they have just not done it yet. Like there are back and forth, like there are reasons why they do and do not want to, but yeah, they haven't done any housing yet, except for the garrison. This is why I'm like the Elder Scroll system is so much better for housing. It's so good. Now I will say that there is a downside to housing in MMOs for role playing because if you do have a house, if you have an open housing system, for and like Elder Scrolls does, then what you see is that people are role playing less in the world, which therefore hinders the community a little bit, and more role playing in their actual houses themselves, which is always nice to have a. It's always cool to have like a personal, private spot, but if people are being dragged back to a specific house and role playing there, then they're not being out in the world showing other people, hey, this is something that can happen in this game. There is more than just clicking buttons and grinding. There is also a narrative storytelling process going on in the background.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I got you.
If if that makes sense to you.
That makes perfect sense.
I I kind of I didn't actually think about that too much, but I'm starting to put the pieces together. But with that said, I still feel like they could do a better job on the housing in Final Fantasy, but it's an okay system. At least they have a system. Like again, World of Warcraft does not have a system at all
Yeah,
for some reason.
yeah. One of my really good friends used to play a lot of WoW, and he said like one time he was like
Mm.
hanging out with somebody, or no, his brother was. His brother, I guess, was a role player on WoW, and the guy was like, "Hey, you want to come back to my house on the game and role play?" He's like, what?" And it was just an
Yeah,
inn. The guy took him to an inn to role
yeah,
play.
yeah. People will find a house, quote unquote, for their characters, which is not anything to be ashamed of. I absolutely 100% get it. I agree with it. But it becomes difficult though when you have a place that could potentially be invaded by other people.
Yeah.
And then it's not private so much. But now there is actually another side to this on for World of Warcraft, at least, that now there is so much content in World of Warcraft. It's and what used to be one of the one of the big role play servers, Warm Rest Record, it is now like you just don't see other people when you're out and about that much. Not unless you're doing like the insanely new content. Like, so if you go to Mists of Pandaria, you're not going to see that many people. So you could theoretically do that.
I guess that's very true. Yeah, I never thought about that because WoW has been around for a long, long time.
Yeah. Yeah, WoW's been around for a long, long time. And they've actually made it even easier for you to go back and work on the old content. Um they have this thing called timeline campaigns, and you're just like, hey, I want to experience. It's pretty much just pointing out one of the expansions and saying, hey, I want to do that. And everything is level to your character.
Oh,
So
that's
so
cool.
you're like always, yeah. So it's not like it's not like Final Fantasy where if you go too far past your one quest, you're gonna wind up in an area that's 10, 15 levels higher than you.
Yeah, and that happens as is Final Fantasy tradition.
Mm-hmm. What were we talking about before we got into housing? We were talking about free companies, right?
Yeah, yeah.
We were talking about you're having your own free company. Yeah, having your own free company is liberating, isn't it? Having your own guild, like being able to come up with your own ideas and say, "Hey, this is what I want to do and this is how I want to implement it." That sounds it feels so freeing, doesn't it?
It does. And I'm really excited about developing my own story for the first time ever. Obviously, it won't be my
Mhm.
story. It's going to be everyone's story, but I'm really excited about being there at the ground level on it. And we got a lot of
Mhm.
really good true blue role players who are, even greater at role playing than I am. So I'm excited to hear everybody's take, and that's the fun thing is it could be annoying, but right now it's been super fun and it's going to stay fun. Is that we all have different styles of role play that we like. Like I talked about earlier, like I like adventure role play. I like to
Mhm.
kind of get out there and do something heroic, but we got people that love to just do slice of life, casual role play. So it's gonna be so
Mhm.
much fun to do that. And one thing I've learned is like their role play, like you learn the genius in somebody. Like role playing brings out like that person. Like me, you could hang out all day long. You could be like, man, Barko's just an average guy. He's just blue collar guy, comes to work every day and stuff. But then like you get to role playing with somebody, you're like, man, he's very creative. He's very
Mhm.
smart. Like that is
Yeah.
genius. And one thing I enjoy about role playing is like when I was a child, I always wanted to be a writer. That was something. So like
Mhm.
role playing has been a very good, and I'm sure probably a lot of role players are this way, but role playing has been a very good outlet for that.
Oh gosh, yes. Where I love that I can sit down and have a creative narrative experience with others. That I actually get to like type out and write out a story, and I don't have to be the only one working on that story as well. Oh, it feels good.
Yeah, it was very, it's very satisfying, very liberating.
Mm-hmm.
And like if I can say this, like I'm gonna try to keep it on topic, but just free companies and
Mm-hmm.
role players get a bad rap sometimes. I know it's like that on Final Fantasy, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure it probably carries over on all MMOs. Am I correct? Or
Well, yes, it is. Not so much anymore on World of Warcraft. Now we do have griefers, but the pretty much the whole of the community for every MMO has come together and sort of inherited this that we just don't interact with griefers, people who are trying to cause a problem. They will go away eventually. Sometimes you really have to stick it out for like an hour, but if someone wants to sit there and waste their time, you can let them, as long as you understand and you can separate them from what's happening narratively. There's no problem. If they don't exist in the story, they just simply don't exist and you don't have to worry about them.
yeah,
Now with World of Warcraft, I'm gonna say though, as long as you stay away from Lion's Pride Inn, you're fine.
Oh,
And
oh,
I've heard, and Lion's Pride Inn has sent ripples cascading through the roleplay community. Everybody knows what that is.
I've never heard about it. That'd have to be a conversation for another time.
Oh no, we're gonna have this conversation right now.
Go
Lion's
on.
Pride Inn is the. It used to be. I don't know how it is on I'm sorry, Moonguard. I was trying to say Warm Rest and Moonguard at the same time, but on Warm Rest, what used to be one of the biggest Alliance RP, uh, before the things happened, which caused a sort of an exodus over to Moonguard. Lion's Pride Inn used to be just this spot of like it's like taking 100 trolls, and I'm talking about internet trolls, and shoving them in a box, and then shaking that box and throwing it at Hornet's Nest and just seeing what's happening. It's wild. There's like some real depraved shit that happens on at Lion's Pride Inn. And it got so bad that role players at one point tried to take it back, um, and like actually try to like set up serious stories there, and hopefully just like push away the trolls. It did not work. It did not work at all.
Really?
Yeah, but I will say this: now that all the role players have left the Alliance side of Warm Rest Accord for the most part and gone to Moonguard, Lion's Pride Inn is pretty simple now. It's pretty free from any trolls. At least on Warm Rest Accord. I don't know what it's like on Moonguard. I'm not a part of Moonguard. I'm not on Moonguard. I think I have one character on Moonguard, but I never get on them. So
Yeah, I understand that.
Anyways, sorry about that. I went off on a tangent there.
Oh, no, I'm glad I heard it. I always wanted to join. I always wanted to join. Yes, I always wanted to join uh, the roleplay community. No, I've always wanted to join or play World of Warcraft. Never
Mm-hmm.
did. Now I'm an adult. I can afford. I have my own PC. I can
Mm-hmm.
afford to get World of Warcraft. But now I'm so invested in Final Fantasy 14, and WoW has been out so long. I just don't know if I can do it. I know people will tell me I can,
Mm-hmm.
but it's daunting to think of.
Well, I'm going to tell you the opposite of what they're saying. And if you are comfortable in Final Fantasy 14, stick in Final Fantasy 14. If you want to go to WoW, awesome, man. More power to you. But listen, they don't even let you fucking talk across factions, all right? There used to be, there was an add-on that people used to roleplay across factions because roleplayers don't want to fucking sit there and troll each other. Roleplayers just want to roleplay. We want to troll our friends because we like trolling our friends. That's just how friends work. But there was an add-on that, like I said, allowed you to um roleplay across faction. In World of Warcraft, you cannot speak to the other faction. Horde cannot speak to Alliance at all. So there was an add-on that lets you bypass this, and it was just for role players, right? Like both role players had to have the add-on in order for it to work. So there wasn't any risk of it being like a problem on PvP. And I, they took that away. They basically made it to where the add-on would no longer work, and people were so upset about this that Blizzard gave us a fucking potion that you can buy that allows you to speak to other people across the faction border, which sucks so much for role players, but it is what it is. You can't really keep the company from making the decisions they want to make.
No, you can't.
So stick with Final Fantasy, man. Like if you're starting a new guild, you're on your way to making good times, and honestly, if you went to World of Warcraft now, you would just be you would just be spending time elsewhere when you could be spending time harvesting? Harvesting? That's not the right word. Harboring? No, that's not the right word. Building new memories.
Hippopotamus. No, wait a minute. Okay, building new memories. Yes. I was trying to think of a funny
Hippopotamus.
H word. I was like,
Anyways,
yeah.
I've ranted long enough. We've been recording for about an hour now, so I this is the time that we wind down and say goodbye, Barko. So thank you so much for coming on and speaking with me, man. I really do
Hey,
appreciate you.
it's been a pleasure, man. I am, yeah, I am. It is a pleasure being here. It's been a pleasure having you as a friend, on and off the game.
Oh,
Uh,
oh, oh. Is it bad? Is it a bad time to admit to you that I have actually got onto World of Warcraft today to look at a roleplay guild that my friend wanted me to join?
Would it be funny if
Like,
you like was on there and then like you just saw a Barco Holy Sword on there and you're like,
oh
and
my
it's
god,
me playing?
that son of a bitch. Nah, I see it right. I saw it right beside your name earlier. You were playing Final Fantasy earlier. You said, "Yeah, I see right there beside your Discord name, playing Final
Yep.
Fantasy 14 online." I'm sorry, playing Final Fantasy XIV online. Ziv, the critically acclaimed MMO. All right, man. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Do you have anything to say to role players out there while I have you?
Yeah, well, what can I say? I would say this to anybody if you're in a community where you're struggling, like the role play is dead or something, just keep pursuing it. Reach out, try to make new connections, try to get out there and if role play is stale, try to find more people to role play with. And don't feel like you're stuck with, like, well, I've been friends with these people for a long time, but the role play's kind of died off. It's okay to get out
Oh
there and
god,
live a little in your role play life.
God, yes, thank you. God, yes. Do not anchor yourself down because you feel that you have a bond with somebody, with people who aren't there anymore. Please, please take care of yourself first and foremost. And if you want to be in this game, if you want to be in a game to role play, if you're spending money to role play, go find the role play. Don't stick around for people who aren't coming back.
Yeah, yeah. Life too short to, we all, hey, the world's a little crazy right now. So we get on this fantasy world to escape. Like, don't make the fantasy world a mirror of your real world. It should be a world where you have fun, you enjoy yourself, you want to be, you know, and don't let people, I've seen it happen time and time again. I know you have, Mr. Allen. You see people, they get backed into a corner on their role play by their role play partners, by their friends, and
Mm-hmm.
if you're not role playing the character you want to role play, like, I don't know, find something, but
Oh
enjoy it.
yeah, there are
Make
people
sure
out
you're
there.
role playing and enjoy it. And
Oh yeah.
yeah,
Now, if only I could escape the housing crisis in Final Fantasy, my dreams would be set. All right, that's all we got. That's all we got, man. Okay, that's enough out of me. I'm a little still ill, and I have another interview I've got to go do, so I'm going to go do that. If you don't mind doing me a favor, leaving a rate and review, that would be great. I would love that. If you want to come into the Discord and tell me how you liked it, I'd really appreciate that too.